I just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about curriculum. I come from a background of art teaching in secondary schools. I come from a background of curriculum development at state, and I've informed some of the national developments, or tried to, in the last few years. And I also come from a very large family of art enthusiasts, artists, passionate performers, matched with the balance of science, education and the investments that we make in those areas. So my research comes from that background in terms of looking at some of the ways that we can logically articulate art knowledge. And part of that also dovetails with the work that we've done on the curriculum in New South Wales, and I'm just hoping this works. Oh. Okay. There we go. I have 3 slides, but a lot of dot points. And I'm going to speak to each one of them if I can get through them in time. My work here is about recognising the value of art education. That's the thing that drives me in my work as a researcher in this educational precinct, but also in my earlier work as a teacher. The thing that I find most compelling is there is a general discourse about art education as concerning affect. And while that is a relevant and vital part of what we do, we also need, when we turn art education into curriculum terms, to balance affect with other constraints and other theoretical frameworks to allow us to interrogate art forms from a range of different perspectives. The work on the side there in the circle is a diagram that frames up some of the fundamentals that I have worked with in my research. I believe that, and I've worked with developmental progressions with students, and we've worked out that students have the capacity to engage with beliefs. Nicholas was talking about the role of language. Language is key to the way that we make art and talk about art. And we also have a way of engaging with art world phenomena. So a curriculum in New South Wales is based on this kind of work where we have beliefs, language and the art world phenomena coming into alignment. And we've got very logical ways of talking about that. This work was researched in this institution when there was a School of Art Education a few moons ago. And it comes from a long heritage of other researchers who've been working in this area as well. And I wanted to acknowledge the work of Professor Neil Brown. He's an emeritus now of UNSW. But his work and the architectures that he set up for the curriculum in New South Wales have been pivotal in maintaining its strength over a long period of time, where it has not actually ever been reviewed since its inception at stage 6 level since 2001. So since 2001, we've sustained the same curriculum frameworks, and we are now moving into 18 years into the 21st century. It's a fascinating phenomenon, and one that we are lucky to have because we've been able to move with the times in the way that the art world has changed in that time. Teachers have been able to remain innovative in their practices and responsive to new innovations in the art world. But I'd have to say, I think it's about time we had a look at it. And I think it's about time we had a good conversation about what the art curriculum looks like. So our art curriculum is based on an academic discipline. It doesn't take the view that it is about expression in isolation of other positions. We have logical constraints, as I mentioned, about frameworks, explanatory frameworks or beliefs. We have language, and we have art world phenomena that we can interrogate very logically and objectively to some extent, able to build those skills, such as critical and creative thinking, through the reasoning that teachers and students engage in. We talk about practical and conceptual reasoning in New South Wales art education. This is the basis on which teachers have those relational conversations with their students, where creativity is exchanged, as Kerry Thomas mentions in her research. It's exchanged in the social exchanges between the teacher and the student. It's not talent in the mind of the student, and it's not a kind of aesthetic fascism on the part of the teacher. It's a negotiated space. And I think that's why curriculum has been so strong in New South Wales, because we've valued the student's voice in that space as well as the expertise of the teacher and brought those two things together. What we do in art education is to build intentional agency on the part of the student. We engage them in building theories of knowledge. The creative act is building a theory that they can then use to represent, whether it's in an art form or in their explanations of what artworks means. The idea that students are respected in that space to have a view, but to be able to position that as a justifiable, informed point of view is what we generate. Even at the youngest levels of kindergarten, students are capable of generating their own points of view. They are naive in that space, and as they move up to the end of the curriculum, we talk about autonomy, intellectual autonomy, and not just well-being because art makes you feel good. I was recently in a meeting in one of the state institutions and discussing the recent revisions to the K-6 curriculum, and there were some comments made by people in that room about we just want the primary school kids to have a bit of fun. But the fun's not just in the colouring in exercises they're given or the paper plates that they turn into elephants' heads, as I've seen in schools, which I've visited recently. The fun is in the acquisition of knowledge and the ability of those students to feel they can respectfully be respected in that space, but also have their own view and have that respected by others, whether it's in their own community, in an art gallery space or in the schoolroom itself. I'm mindful of Jihad Dib's comments about the HSC last week. He talked about the need for a move away from rote learning in the HSC to a move to more theoretical kinds of thinking. Art education gives us a perfect blueprint for moving into this curriculum reform with an idea of beliefs underpin what we do and we have different ways of ascribing value to things in the field that we interrogate. And that field keeps changing as well. It doesn't stay static and we don't learn topics off by heart either. And I think that's why our numbers in art education have not declined over the time that I've been a teacher and then a teacher educator after that. So I think we need to think about meaningful curriculum renewal and we need to look at what do learning progressions look like that are subtle articulations of the narrative of learning across age groups. The general capabilities are other artefacts that come from a work-informed, employment-focused reality, and we need to understand how those things articulate in the domain-specific knowledge of each of the disciplines in the curriculum. Exactly what we need to do in art, and relative to art, not the arts as some kind of generic blancmange. So, what do we also need to engage teachers in quality professional learning. In order for curriculum reform to happen and be taken up, teachers need support to take on new ideas. In the 20 years since the curriculum was first designed that we currently teach at HSC level, I've seen the number of professional learning activities diminish with the increased standardisation of professional learning standards, the compliance measures that have come with that, and which were designed to encourage people to become professionally enabled. I've seen a diminution of the subject-specific focus in learning. So we get generic professional learning programs, but few of those are anchored in the stuff that the teachers love. I've been working with a group of teachers just recently. We had a very small postgraduate class. We were lucky enough to go to White Rabbit Gallery and spend 4 days with contemporary Judith Nielsen's contemporary art collection from China, and we've been looking at how is it that we would engage students with these kinds of artworks in a classroom. It is one of the richest things I've seen, and the commitment and the joy that those teachers experienced came from learning something new about art, but also learning how to teach it. Okay, I'm up to 8, better hurry up. One of the things I suggest in this is a provocation to everyone to think about what sort of communities of professional learning we could engender amongst the art organisations that are here. There are members here from Vadia who do a fantastic job. It is voluntary work they do. It is unpaid. They sustain over 800 teachers across New South Wales. Thank you. And Mark mentioned earlier there are 8,000 was it 8,000 students or schools? 800,000, beg your pardon. Think about how many teachers that represents, how many art teachers are in that group, and how many consultants do we have in a department? 2. And they cover all of the art forms. So we need to think about professional learning, and I won't say anything more about that. Genuine curriculum support and time for teachers to learn. I'm also encouraging teachers to actually make this happen themselves. I'm not suggesting that the system needs to do it for us. Teachers need to have high expectations of themselves and of their students and of the curriculum. But to have high expectations, we have high challenge. We also need high support for that to happen and for improvements and quality teaching to emerge and be sustained. We need to take leadership in this space. Teachers need to be highly qualified and engage in postgraduate study. Since 2014, I've had a postgraduate course in education. I have just lost the fight to keep that postgraduate course, which dovetailed with some of the work here at Art and Design, to be sustained under the rigorous scrutiny of those higher up in the university where small class sizes are not necessarily supported. Now, if those sorts of programs disappear, we lose the next generation of researchers. I'm probably one of 1, 2 or 3 art educators with a PhD doing research in universities in art education in New South Wales. We need a succession plan, and I think there are people in this room and people beyond this room who are watching in who are unaware of the joys that PhD study can do, but the way to get there is to do some postgraduate study and research your own teaching and the things that drive you as a teacher. So we need a call to action, some motivation from the systems to take that action, and also a commitment to building a collaborative space in this forum to support one another to build those sorts of programs and activities that will sustain art education as a quality learning area in the curriculum and in the university. So thank you very much.